everyone, and welcome to Primecast episode Snowpocalypse.
Snowpocalypse.
I'm your host, Will Hungerford, lead developer at Privateer Press, and with me, see if I can channel him, is my co-host, John Swinkles.
Hello. That was pretty good.
Did I do you right, Daddy?
That's pretty close. Good morning.
If you've never watched Primecast before, we do the show once a month, and this is the show where we're just getting different people from around the company that you normally don't see on the weekly streams come on. We just talk to them about what's going on, different things happening here at Privateer Press, and we're live at Twitch and Facebook, so we'd like to talk to you as well. So if you have questions, hit us up as we're chatting about things. Thanks for all of you joining us today. We do have the drums back because Tony is a genius and a mastermind. Tony, would you hit him one time?
Yep, there they are.
Primecast is back.
Yes.
So let's talk about a couple of things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about some of the new releases and things coming up in February. We're going to have Mike Valancourt come on to talk about some new mini crate concept art, including some of your first looks at some upcoming mini crate models. Oz is going to come on and we're going to talk about Riot Quest, including a Riot Quest spoiler of a new model.
So excited.
We were going to have Doug Seacat on today to talk about Infernals and stuff, but the Snowpocalypse got him, and Doug is not in today. So unfortunately, we won't have Doug on. So sorry, everybody. You can blame the Infernals. They're the ones that caused this to happen to them. Then we're going to be talking to you and our painter, Jordan, about conventions, specifically like an LVO wrap-up and some of the cool stuff coming up.
Yep.
And then we'll just sort of close the whole show.
We'll do the thing.
Then
we'll go get lunch.
For everybody in chat right now, DGC, one of my favorite people on Twitch, says Tony is a handsome devil. Tony is one of the best-looking people at Privateer Press.
Second best looking guy at Privateer Press.
First is Jack.
Absolutely. Like, hands down.
So yes, for everybody in chat right now, sorry that we don't have Doug in. He'll be okay.
And he's in the chat, so he's.
Oh, Doug made it
here
in, so we don't have to give you Fs then.
Yeah, he's in digital spirit.
Yeah, luck God asking no Seacat today. Unfortunately, the Infernals got him. He can't make it in today. Combination of Snowpocalypse and other stuff. So sorry, but we'll have him on next time. So
And he's in chat, so you can still ask him annoying questions.
yeah, you can always ask Doug annoying
Always.
questions. He loves
Every
them.
time.
Before we jump into today's offerings, I want to talk about the offerings we have every week. In case you've never watched this stream before, you can join us every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for the Dev Chat. It's where me, Oz, and Jeff come on, and we usually talk about CID or other cool things going on. And Thursdays is Get Your Paint On with Jordan Lamb, who's sitting behind the camera right now, just looking awesome. Hey, Jordan.
Hi, everyone.
Where Jordan paints new models and goes over hobby tips and tricks. More importantly, answers your questions during the stream about any sort of painting questions you might have. And once a month, we do Primecast Live. And there will be a battle stream coming back. I know I've got a lot of questions about what happened to the weekly Rumble. There's being some revisions made, and as soon as we have details on it, we will let everyone know.
Indeed.
Yep. Do you want to talk about the mini crates currently available?
I do want to talk about the mini crates. So first off, I know it's on the bottom of your screen, but like kind of top in my heart right now is Daidoji Uji, who's one of the Crane Samurai. He's available until March 5th. So head over to mini-crate.com/L5R. Get that mini. And then, of course, you have until only this next Tuesday, February 19th, to make sure that you get Harlequin Versh, which I am looking forward to getting a number of him because between the patches on the back of his cape, the Harlequin patterning on his jacket and stuff, he's going to be a joy to paint.
You want to get a bunch of them?
Yeah, well, I've got like 3 different color schemes in my head, so why just one?
Just have a bunch of Harlequins?
Just have a bunch of them.
I mean, sure. I mean, we could probably write up something like time loop, time-space continuum breaking, like Company of Iron scenario where you can just run like a bunch of multiple characters.
Well, I didn't think I'd get them all on the table in a specific time,
we can
but
do it.
I like where your head's at.
Oz and I are drunk with power. We can do whatever we want.
That's fair.
So, side realist, will there be a CID process for the weekly Rumble? No, there won't be a CID process for the Rumble, but you will be hearing more about it very, very soon. So let's go ahead and jump right into things. Yes. Got a lot of questions flying, so everybody, we don't get to all of your questions. We do apologize because there's a lot of chat going on, but we'll get to them as soon as we can.
That's a good thing, though, because we like having you all here with us.
Yep. So last Friday, if you haven't been to your local store, there were 3 major releases. First off, for Monsterpocalypse was Zor Raiden. Zor Raiden's the second Shadow Sun monster to come out. If you're a Protector player and you're looking for an additional monster to add to your force, and specifically you want some high mobility, Zor Raiden is amazing. He has hit and run. and he gives hit and run to all faction units. So all of your shinobis, your S-type shinobis, which are already jumping all over the place and beating people to death with giant kung fu moves.
You had super flippy ninjas. Now they're turned to 11 on the flippy.
It's basically they learn luchador skills. They don't just run in and drop kick you, but they also like drop kick you into a moonsault. So hit and run in the game, basically if you hit someone with an attack, you get to move 3 spaces. If you've played Monsterpocalypse, you're starting to get into it, you'll understand that using your units to control the board to take power nodes is like very central to how the game plays. So having that extra mobility, more importantly, being able to knock somebody off a point and then step on top of it is really, really good. Plus, all of the ninja monsters, Zor Maxim and Zor Raiden, are like incredibly high defense, very mobile, and generally very good at power attacks. To pair with Zor Raiden, the Shadow Sun Industries base came out. Now, the Shadow Sun Industries base is a building that helps almost exclusively Shadow Sun, but it does have some other cool abilities to it. The main thing it does, in addition to making your Shadow Sun units cheaper once per turn, is you can teleport between the buildings.
Which is a way to make your super kicky flippy ninjas even faster and more board control.
If you play, like when you play Monsterpocalypse, you play an agenda, protectors or destroyers, and you can mix, you're supposed to mix and match freely, but we know there's a lot of like faction purists out there that are only gonna play just Guard or just Shadow Sun. If you're playing like strong Shadow Sun, you probably wanna pick up 4 of these, so you can be teleporting all across the board, though I'd probably say pick up a repair truck too, so that as they get destroyed, you can put them back, or as other buildings get destroyed, suddenly Shadow Sun Industry buildings can start popping up all over the place. So this is probably one of the unique and I'd say most skill-intensive pieces building-wise, because you really have to think about your placement before the game begins, and then how to use it as things go on.
This is where that alternating building placement's really going to come into play, because your opponent's not going to want that in where they want to set up their power base, otherwise you're just going to disrupt it. So yeah, it's going to be pretty key where you place it.
Yeah, there's a couple things people asking if Zor Raiden does flips, or is it cartwheels, moonsaults, or other types of, it's just whatever you imagine.
All of the above?
You know, and I see somebody just said that he needs a luchador paint set. I would love to see a Shadow Sun army that's just nothing but shinobis and Maxim and Raiden painted up like luchadors. That sounds like an actually really, really cool paint scheme. If anyone does that, please post that.
Hashtag Zor Lucha.
I want to see that so bad.
I want to see it really bad.
Emmanuel Class asks, how do the Infernals identify their champions, Warlocks or Warcasters? They're Infernal Masters, and they don't use Focus or Fury. Bum, bum, bum. Today, in your local store, there's some other cool stuff coming out. Roxor! Yeah. Now, where we did Raiden and the Shadow Sun building, now we're doing Roxor and the Comet Shard. Roxor is the second Planet Eater monster, whereas Gorgadra likes to just beat things to death with his hands. Actually, is Gorgadra a he, a she, or...
It is an it.
It's... I have Mike Valancourt back there. It's an it?
All I know is they have the best bellies in gaming.
It's a thing.
It's a thing? Yeah, their bellies are like, the sculpting on these were definitely made to very easy to just base coat, wash, and then give some quick highlights, or you can take it up a notch and do like that comic book sketch style and all the other cool things we've been seeing people do. Roxor is the ranged monster in Planet Eaters. Has one of my favorite abilities in the game in the base form. Both has penetrator on the gun, so that anything you shoot gets -1 defense against the attack, but also has an ability that when you shoot a building, you compare the roll to all units adjacent to the building. And if the roll is equal to or higher than their defenses, all units adjacent to the building also blow up at the same time.
That's delightful.
Yeah, Roxor is... When I play Destroyers, I have trouble not taking Roxor, and that's because I really enjoy messing with people's power bases. It's one of my favorite things to do on the first turn. Control the radar dish, get the -1 range, control the industry, get +1 speed. Roxor just flies up there, shoots one of the big buildings that a lot of people will try and put their units around. While you have 2 adjacent buildings, you have 3 units holding both. You shoot one building, clear out all 3, then you just use maximum steps with the action die to just back Roxor all the way up. And it's just a really powerful opening turn.
Just be like, what? Mic drop.
Yeah, well, don't mic drop over a Monsterpocalypse table, because you will destroy all the miniatures.
Off the table onto the floor.
Yeah.
Always onto the floor, never onto the mini.
The Comet Shard is the other Monsterpocalypse model coming out today, and that is the Planet Eater specific building. In addition to providing a discount on once per turn on Planet Eater units you spawn. Woo! It also gives you kind of a quasi power gorge that while you're securing it, whenever you destroy an enemy, you get an extra power die. Now, the power gorge is already on the chomper, so this is like you can be securing this, have a chomper go up, kill somebody, get the power gorge from it, and then an extra power die from the comet shard. And if you're playing like Gorgadra and you've got the riled or the granted riled later on, like your power die economy is just enormous.
And like with most of the other buildings, I assume that if you have 2 Harbinger Comet shards, if you're securing both, you still only get the 1 power die because they're unique in that activation, right?
Yep.
Okay.
DGC says, are we getting a Defender Y? No. We have Defender X. Nothing's cooler than Defender X because X is like one of the coolest letters in the alphabet.
Yeah.
The 90s taught me that.
Yes. X is an extreme, Y is not.
Thanks,
90s.
Striker 911 says that they waddle up to the battle, specifically Rogzor and Gorgadra waddle up, not fly up. Hey man, we don't know. They're big monsters. They could jump really, really fast. We don't know. They actually don't jump though. Sorry. And yes, the Comet Shard is one of the most amazing looking buildings
so
in the set. It looks really cool, and I think the glow effects that Jordan, did you paint that?
I did.
Jordan, you painted almost all of Monpok, didn't you?
Almost.
Like a good portion of it.
Yeah.
A very good portion of it.
Yeah. That thing looks great. Good job, buddy. You're
Yeah,
a good painter.
I can't decide between that and Mount Terra for which one looks the coolest. Mount Terra only because I have a pterosaur bias, but
The Void Gate is pretty rad too, with its teeth opening up in the middle of it and like tentacles coming out everywhere.
I think Comet Shard's my favorite.
Comet Shard's your favorite? Cool.
okay.
Next Friday, though, for those of you going to your local stores, which you should always be going to your local stores.
What about the Grey Lord Adjunct?
Well, I was going to get to that. I was going to say next Friday is the new War Machine stuff, but there's also more War Machine.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So that was all the Monsterpocalypse stuff. We also have War Machine models releasing. So last Friday was the Bane Knight Command attachment. The Bane Knight Command attachment has a plethora of just super good rules.
Oh, look at that thing. It's so cool.
Mini feat defensive strike, gives the unit reposition. Also has the basically remove models from play. Just a really strong piece for a unit that has been good since Mark 1. For those of you asking for the return of Shadow Shift, I'm sorry, no. Everyone knows that Mark 1 Bane Knight mirror matches with Shadow Shifts going back and forth was the worst thing that could ever happen to you as a person. So we can never have Shadow Shift come back, okay? That was last Friday, so if you haven't seen it in your local store, that's your War Machine release. Your War Machine releases for today is the Grey Lord Adjunct, the new Khador Warcaster attachment. So with the release of Wolves of Winter in the most recent CID, we're expecting to see a lot of this model. Mm-hmm. I actually haven't seen this guy in person yet. Jordan, is he painted up yet? Have you had yeah, the Adjunct. Okay, I guess I just have not seen him yet. But we have the render up on the screen, great looking model, and Wolves of Winter is definitely picking up a lot of popularity and a lot of steam with its recent CID, so we expect to see a lot of this fella as well.
He did pretty well at LVO. We had him there for pre-release, and as people were finishing up their games, they'd come by the booth, and he was definitely one of the tops that people were grabbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we move on to next week's releases, which are purely War Machine, chat is talking about no giant apes. The giant apes for Monsterpocalypse are coming later. Last Primecast, or was it last dev stream? I think it was last Primecast. Oz talked about some of the upcoming Monsterpocalypse factions. If you missed that one, you can go to youtube.com/privateerpress and check it out. But giant monkeys are coming. Giant mole people are coming, but most important of all, Ubercore is coming. And if you don't know what Ubercore is, they're an evil corporation that makes robotic mecha versions of the existing monsters. So like Mecha Gorgadra and Mecha Pterosaur and all that good stuff. And as a fan of old 50s kaiju movies, Mecha Godzilla was my favorite. And
Therefore,
so
Mechacon.
I'm so ready for Ubercore. I don't have a release date on it. It's in the future.
I know it's not terribly far down the road because I've started to see some sculpts and some other things that make me think soonish.
Yeah, but that is the faction I'm going to go easily the hardest on. So anyway, back to the War Machine releases. Just answer one of the questions in chat for everybody there. Next Friday, we have what turned out to be two of the most popular pre-releases at LVO. The Initiates of the Order of the Wall. Big release for Protectorate, incredibly strong unit. They're FA3, and nobody at LVO bought less than 3. They were all bought in multiples of 3.
The only people that didn't know they were FA3.
And then came back.
Bought like 2, and then came back and bought their third one.
Yeah. They were either, like, people either bought 3, 6, or 9 initiates, depending on how hard they were ninjaing for other people.
Correct.
So basically, if you've liked Paladins, if you like Faithful Masses, if you think Shield Guard's a good ability and you want a lot of it, and if you want the Harbinger to never die, take Initiates of the Order of the Wall. They're just really good.
It's a solid unit choice in just about every list.
Yes. And the other release next Friday, for all you Grimkin players out there, one of the weirdest things we've ever made is finally coming out. Also a very popular LVO, the Clockatrice is hitting. So your third heavy for the Grimkin faction, not necessarily a big heavy hitter like Skin and Bones is, but definitely more of a utility piece with a paralysis spray, a really unique animus that slows down everyone's speed, and the Time Stutter ability, which is just super bizarre for whenever it gets damaged at certain points, it gets to teleport around the field. Also, I don't even know how to paint that thing. Jordan, yell out a one-word piece of advice on how you would paint the Clockatrice. 12. The answer
Nailed it.
is 12.
My answer is Rockatrice.
Rockatrice?
Yeah, I'm gonna Dremel out that little clock, and I'm gonna put a Bluetooth speaker on him.
So Tyson, the guy that runs all the events, War Machine events at LVO, and who makes those really great terrain tables you see, like the convergence table that has actually moving parts, the Cephalix table that he had, like he created a whole back piece with Cephalix floating in jars, and the whole thing glows. It actually has a plasma screen, like a flat plasma ball. Hamilton, no. I have to get back up on the mic. There we go. Sorry, we have Hamilton over here.
What's happening right now?
Hamilton fell off the mic. He has been talking about doing a custom job on the Clockatrice. He wants to Dremel out the clock in the middle and put an actual functioning clock in the chess piece. And Tyson is a crazy person and can do it.
Yeah, because he's actually very good at that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like very good.
He's super good at moving mechanical parts that are incredibly tiny on playable things like, the tables. So Tyson, I look forward to your Clockatrice with actual clock in it. That's one of just the coolest things I've heard of, and I hope to see it by next LVO.
Ross James, rock out with my Clockatrice out. Yes. Mini Bluetooth speaker.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. But before we do, we get to finally do this right because Tony, you're the best. Tony, hit the drums.
I miss it.
Mike, important question for you.
Yeah.
Hamilton on or Hamilton off?
I don't want to speak into the pig's mouth.
Okay. Just give me my son. Hey everybody.
I thought that was Pagani and Getz's son.
We all adopted him.
Oh, your third papa?
Yeah, well, I had to be, yes.
Okay.
Everybody, it's Mike Valancourt. Mike Valancourt, your title is, what does it become these days?
It's just senior art director.
Senior art director? I didn't know if it was just art director, senior art director.
I'm the art director.
Yeah, like
there is no other. So.
Master art director.
Yeah.
So we've got you on to spoil some really cool stuff that people have not seen yet, and that is concept art for some upcoming mini crate models.
Yep.
Which one do you want to talk about first? Because we have the model that's coming up, and then we have the next VIP model that's going to be available in the next mini crate cycle.
Let's do Harley.
You want to do? No, we've got these two new ones.
Oh,
we got
never
that
mind.
one and that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, or Arcadius.
You want to do arcade? Yeah, you're like.
I don't know what the hell's been spoiled anymore.
I know.
I keep my head down and just work on
Art.
stuff, and then it comes out, and then I can talk about that now. That's cool.
So this is the Bride of Arcadius.
Yes.
So can you tell us where this started and sort of how you approached this concept?
She actually went surprisingly quick. It was just taking Arcadius and then going with a little bit of that Bride of Frankenstein kind of feel for the overall look. And I sent that one off to Andrea, and he gave me a first round of sketches. I think I maybe made 3 or 4 quick adjustments, and after that, he sent me a final and was like, "Cool. Well, that was nice. That was easy." It's like when people keep asking me, like, "Hey, you gonna write an insider about that?" I'm like, "There's not enough information
Universal
to
monster?
provide. It would be 2 sentences of text like, I sent this, then I got this. I hope you like it. Like, enjoy.
Monster movies are dope. This model is dope. Buy it.
Exactly.
That's the
It's just going to be a lot of fun to paint.
Whose
too.
idea was it to have the sort of like the little pig in her hand? Was
Was
that yours, or did that come from Wilson, or was that somebody else? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But she has a Hamilton.
She does have a Hamilton.
Yeah, no, I think that might have been in the original brief, and then we debated over whether or not the Band-Aids would actually be, legible.
Sure.
In 30 mil format.
Right,
but-
because sometimes we have something that's a drawing that we can't actually translate over to miniature form, right? And changes have to be made.
Exactly. Kind of like what's her name? The with all the spikes. We just released her for Riot Quest.
James.
Yeah.
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 I was like, with a lot of spikes, this could be a lot of things, Mike. Like anything in Legion of Everblight, this
And
could
or
be.
cricks.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
So is the actual pose on the final miniature going to be what we see here in the concept art, or is the pose a little different?
Nope. That's it.
Cool.
So what I like about that is, as far as I've been able to tell, the first model that we ever had, where the person's face was actually expressing pure joy, maniacal or not, was the Rocket Man Ace. Mm-hmm. This finally makes another one where the person in the Iron Kingdoms is happy.
Maniacally so.
Maniacally so.
But the problem whenever you're dealing with that in miniature format is when you start opening up people's mouths, weird things like it happen in translation.
Yeah,
so
sure.
you have to kind of monitor that.
So we got a question from chat before we move on to the next model we want to show everybody, and that is, does the pig have a human hand?
No.
No, okay. They were looking at the concept art and trying to see if the pig had a human hand like stitched onto it or something like that.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look at it closer.
It does kind of look like there's like a little baby human hand like attached there somewhere. And I don't know if that's just in her backpack or what's going on there.
So the Bride of Arcadius is going to be the next cycle's VIP model. Now, normally you can sign up for mini crates one at a time, but if you sign up for a 6-month sub, you get whatever the VIP model is for free in your next shipment. So starting in the March cycle, which we're about to show off the next model in the March cycle,
Yep.
If you do the 6-month sub, Bride of Arcadius is coming to you. So pick it up because minions are, as we know, are the best faction in the game.
They're very, very useful.
Yeah, and you definitely want to pick this up because also just classic 50s monster. And I want to see people doing the white streak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Black
I
hair,
think
white streak.
That is a requirement.
kind
if
of
you
has
paint
to
it,
happen.
you have to have the white streak.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hair can be any color you want, but it has to have a white streak.
Yeah, hot pink white streak.
That's in the clause for subscribing to
Hunt-
that.
hunt-
Yeah.
You actually sign it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
There's a
agree.
waiver.
By subscribing to Minicrate, you agree that you will paint a white streak in her hair.
The next model we're going to show is actually next month's model, which I don't think people have seen yet, and that is an alternate Silas Wishlanier,
Yes.
the Seeker of Silence.
And this one was really challenging.
You mean
Tell
that
us.
curved stack
I-
of books wasn't easy to pull off?
Well, it's that large stack of books, and then so that thing alone, just that stack of books, which is a fairly kind of boring idea on its own, but when you try to get that broken down to the point of it being producible, I sent it out to Mark, and he just kind of his brain broke. He's like, no.
Well, especially since
because
they're
you know, like when you have books opening up and you get the accordion effect of the pages, so figuring out how to you can actually fill in those things, but it's definitely a nice nod to the old Gil Elfgren stuff, and
oh, absolutely,
yeah, that was part of the inspiration behind it, because Gil is the man.
Now,
And Retribution is awesome.
Yes,
is that the book stack going to be a separate piece? Do you know?
I believe so. I think her breakdown is maybe it isn't. It's
No, I think she on top of the books are all the same.
nice, and then I think we only took off her arm. Is she 2 or 3 pieces?
There's 3.
3 pieces. Yeah.
Okay.
so she-
Okay, so the books are attached to her, Jordan?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. And I can't tell, does she have Silas's traditional staff on her, or is that not in the concept art?
Not in there. It was
Okay.
going to be another piece. It's one of those things you always have to kind of account for is what's your part count going to be, because your part count drives up cost, and if with your subscription service, then it gets more expensive, and nobody wants that.
That makes sense.
So did you draw this concept art? Was this your work?
I originally sketched her up,
Yeah.
but due to most of my workflow, it's I start something and then I
The-
hand
and-
it off. So
And
I
then-
do lots of the initial sketches these days, and then maybe finish some stuff. Infernal's probably the first things that I've finished in a while.
And those look, by the way, phenomenal. All the stuff I've been seeing, on the internal servers, is
Yeah.
nuts. Do you know who did the concept art on this?
Yeah, it's
one?
Andrea.
It's Andrea. Okay.
Yeah, Andrea is our concept monkey. He's he does everything.
We love you, Andrea.
Boom. Someone asked how we were going to work monkeys into the stream earlier, before we even started. Nailed it. Mike brought it.
Yeah, now Andrea does a vast majority of our concept art these days. Carlos Cabrera is also pitching in now too, and then I occasionally do some of the easier stuff when it comes in, just because I can cherry pick that and it doesn't take me away from assigning other art or dealing with stuff. Right now we're working on the illustrations for we haven't revealed the title, so I won't say that. For Infernals. Yeah. So,
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
So, quick question. You said Arcadius was really easy to do. You said the books here were difficult, but the actual Silas model here, the Seeker herself, was she difficult in any capacity, or was it mainly that book stack that proved
it's
to be a
usually
problem?
figuring out how to get like, because you have to figure out backfills and stuff. Otherwise, it's this arm has to come off, and the reason why the arm has to come off is because there's negative space underneath, or because of how it feeds. So with hers, like getting the arm tucked up and closer, or like in the instance you've got a character with glasses, it's like how far can you get those glasses off of the face in order
Yeah,
to
that was
make it
that was a
work.
pretty big challenge with Victoria Pendrake.
Yes.
Yes, but nailed it. That model is fantastic.
A lot of that credit goes to Ron and the sculpting team, and them being able to make those little tweaks. And then, of course, with every mini that we have that comes in, we always do what do we call it? A cam review. So we go on camera and we we'll talk with Ron, who's remote, and we will go over each of the sculpts and just kind of like tear it apart.
Yeah,
So it's
sure.
okay. Is this model big enough? Is it too small? Is it too large? Like, what are the things on this that aren't reading as far as like in the test prints? And then we'll go through and like make notes on that, and then revise and keep revising until it comes out nice and pretty, and it works for everybody.
I actually got to do one of those recently for Riot Quest.
Yup.
We sat down. You were in that room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in all of them.
Dude, I mean, my brain sometimes. Like we sat down and we went through all the Riot Quest models that we had available, and we're like looking at the scale of everything. And I remember when we were looking at Boomhowler 2, Boomhowler Solo Artist is his name.
Yep.
We put him, and then we actually took the troll line from the beginning to today, and we're like, and like, and trying to figure out if he was right and where we wanted him to be. So, well, awesome. Thanks for being on, Mike. Thanks for talking to us about art, and we'll see you next Primecast.
Absolutely.
Cool. You'll be.
As long as we're not snowed in.
No, yeah, we'll be fine.
The
Tony Drums.
Snowpocalypse continues.
So now it's time to bring on Big Papa Oz Schoonover, my boss and development manager. We're going to talk about some Riot Quest. Oz.
If I don't like how he's interviewing me, can I not come on?
No.
Not an option. Sadly, he's the host.
What's wrong with Big Papa Oz Schoonover?
There's so many layers.
I didn't come up with that nickname. That was Pagani.
Yeah, sure.
It's so good to have you here.
Am I on camera now?
Welcome.
Do I have to lean in
Please don't.
way over here?
Loves you.
Please.
You have to. Pigs squeal. There we go.
Oh,
Whoa, don't
that's
do
going to
that.
be terrible.
That's what we're looking for.
Rip headphone users.
Yeah, sure. Who's way over there? Who's super far away from microphones?
So what we're going to talk about today is we've been obviously doing a lot of Riot Quest internally.
Uh-huh.
We're going to spoil a new Riot Quest model and talk a little bit about it.
Exciting.
But first, Tony, I'll get to talk to you enough on this while we're doing this, and I know you've got a mic over there.
Yeah.
You've been like one of my top play testers during Riot Quest.
That's true.
How do you enjoy it?
I come in every morning and I drop stuff off at my desk, and then the first thing I do is go to your office and make eye contact with you
Yeah.
in a
Long, prolonged eye contact.
pleading way.
Yeah.
And say, "Are we playtesting today?" And the days that you say no are awful days for the rest of the day.
Wow.
Like, I really look forward to playing the game, and then we sit down, I get excited, and then we play for about an hour, and then when we're done, and you're like, "Okay, that's it," and I'm like, "We're not gonna play again?"
I can attest that he's not being hyperbolic because I sit right next to where they play test, and the exuberance and joy that comes through and over the walls while they're playing is palpable and makes me very jealous.
No, I really have a good time, and I love playing it.
Yeah. I can tell you have a good time because you curse a lot.
And the lesson,
That's prove it.
and the lesson there is that Hungerford makes Tony sad a lot.
And curse. So you've been along for the playtest ride
Yes.
for Riot Quest since
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
Up until where we're at now. And just want to talk to you about how you feel. We're going to do a game review real quick.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about the playtest where it's at now? How do you feel about the game where it's at now? Are you enjoying it? What do you enjoy about it?
If I say horrible bad things, that's a problem, right?
You can drop the mic and leave. Like, it's fine. You
No,
can also be like, it's terrible.
I think it's a really, really interesting game, especially from us because it's something completely new that we've never done before. We've done board games, and we've done other miniatures games and stuff, but we haven't ever done anything quite like this.
Yeah, and for people that don't know what Riot Quest is yet, because I know that information is still kind of getting out there, and we haven't done a full gameplay reveal yet.
Yeah.
How would you describe the game? If, just in general, like what is the game like?
So it's what we've been talking about internally and externally to a certain extent. It's a free-for-all like arena battle game. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I think is the most interesting, and Tony can chime in on this if he wants to, you can play it 2, 3, or 4 players. And the one-on-one game feels a little different than the 4-on-4 game.
It's a little bit more competitive, a little bit.
Well, it's a little bit less wacky random, but it's still the same game. You still get the same experience. You just don't get maybe so much of the craziness.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely one of those where I don't feel that it is a multiplayer game that it's a detriment to only play with 2.
Yeah.
You're getting 2 different experiences playing in with full multiplayer or with 2 players.
And this is with no rules change, because one of the things when I was designing is a lot of games you play single player, multiplayer, there's like extra layers of rules you have to add or take away.
Sure.
And to keep this super casual and easy, wanted it to be just the same game, no extra rules and nothing different.
Well, the thing I had the most fun with, though, is picking a team, because we've talked about this a little bit publicly, but you can select from any Riot Quest model when you build a team.
There's no army points in this game.
And you pick a certain number of models to play with. And when you and your opponent sit down, you might have some of the same models in your crew, and you might not, but you can only have 4 on the table at once, and you can have up to 10 at the max.
Yeah.
So what models you choose to put on the table when, and how you use the models in particular, and
Who you evacuate, who spawns in.
what scenarios pop up, and all that kind of stuff. That is like the random, crazy, wacky fun of trying to figure out how to do things and what to tackle and what to ignore, and what your opponent is also throwing at you. And we've also leaned into that with little things that say, well, if you kill your opponent's model that's the same as your model, you get a little bonus and that kind of stuff for some of the bounties.
And so, people haven't really heard about it. So to kind of bring it back, if you haven't seen anything on it, it's an arena skirmish miniatures game.
Mm-hmm.
It's played on a board. It's hex grid with models being in a hex at a time. No hex can have more than one model, and you're moving around. You're fighting each other, but what the core concept of the game is, it's not just combat. There's these bounties. It's a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be different sets of them, and every time you play a game, you shuffle them up, and you always flip over a certain number of them in play. And these are the scenarios. And every time somebody beats one and does what the card says to do, like the bounty might say, place a bomb token on the board, and then place a target token over here. The first person to grab the bomb and run it over here and does something scores that bounty. You grab the card. That's your actual victory points in the game.
Yeah.
And then every time a card is scored, new ones flip over. And because it's random, your scenario in the game is constantly evolving, constantly changing. Deployment in the game is also random. There's these various teleportation gates that as your characters get knocked out, you spawn new ones in, but it's a random place they show up, and this includes the initial spawning. You can evacuate people you want to get out and then put new ones in.
Yeah.
And because of this random nature of the objectives, and then also where everyone is sort of showing up, the game is an attempt to control chaos.
Yeah.
You have strategy, you have agency, you have decisions to make, but there is this element of unknown that you have to constantly react to, and it's an alternating activation game, so it's not like your opponent fully reacts, then you fully react, right?
Yeah.
It's just going back and forth.
And someone asked an interesting question, because we've had some confusion about this. Someone asked if there are units in Riot Quest.
No.
Keep in mind, even though the models do have rules for Riot Quest and rules for War Machine and Hordes, they are not the same game at all. Correct. These models are all individual models. You build a team of up to 10. You play with 4 of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And if we ever do put out something that acts like a unit in War Machine, it wouldn't be a unit in Riot Quest, because the games are basically as completely different as they can be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you buy a Riot Quest model, when they come out in stores, you buy it. It's going to come with that model's Riot Quest hero stat card as well as their Riot gear card. And any other supplemental stuff that come with it for Riot Quest. Then on War Room and on the online database, we're going to basically for free supplementally put out rules to use that model in War Machine and Hordes if you'd like to.
Yeah.
They're fully legal. They're playable in Steamroller. That was just something we decided to do to give you more value out of these miniatures. And because it takes place in an alternate Iron Kingdoms timeline, it is
darker alternate.
a weirder timeline.
I'd
totally
go with
weird, too.
weirder.
It definitely gets
Weirder is
like
definitely.
it starts off kind of normal-esque, right? Like,
Sure.
oh, that's Eris, and that's Boomhowler, and then
Yeah.
like, oh, what happened to Butcher? Why does he have like a Fell Lola? And then as we get towards the end of the roster, and we get further and further down the release,
Gets a little weirder.
it gets super weird. Especially like the last 8 I pitched to Wilson, that he approved all of them.
We got weird with those.
Dude, they're
We got-
crazy.
We got
So
real weird.
say you're welcome to the audience for how weird it's going to get.
It's going to get weird. Speaking of heroes, let's
weird.
actually preview. Another hero is going to enter the arena, everyone. This is your first look at the Wolf with No Name. So the Wolf with No Name is a tough skinwalker hombre wandering around the waste
so
collecting
good.
bounties. He is a scout class hero
Yeah.
in Riot Quest. Will be usable in War Machine and Hordes. We'll have rules for him coming later on. I love the fact that his hunting knife is just in scale, freaking enormous.
It is gigantic.
Chat
He does
is
have
like
a
losing its mind right
very
now with how
large knife.
dope he is.
But his actual name, the rules name of him is the Wolf with No Name.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a nod to some certain cowboy character type stuff.
In Riot Quest, he actually lowers the defense of enemies for everyone else in your crew whenever they take shots at them because he
Yeah.
helps them. He's basically a spotter of sorts.
Yep.
He is also very good at when somebody's already injured, he actually does more damage to them because he's kind of the rule's called cutthroat. And if somebody like gets a couple licks in, the Wolf with No Name will go in and finish the job. He's also really skilled at traversing all the various hex types. And if there's like, say, the equivalent of like difficult terrain in Riot Quest, he can move through those things pretty freely. So he's like a highly mobile hunter, and he uses that gun and the knife with equal skill.
Randy,
Not talking about this concept has been super difficult because this
Landy
thing is
Rodriguez
amazing.
in the chat has a really vital question.
What is that?
Is the Wolf with No Name's catchphrase? It's high moon.
Oh, wow.
Slow clap.
There's a couple questions. Somebody says, what type of classes, what do the type of classes mean for the game? We'll be revealing more of that as we get into the gameplay, but there's 6 classes for Riot Quest. And each class, may interact with certain bounties that show up, so you're gonna want a good spread of classes. You might get a bounty that says like, any character can go fix this malfunctioning teleportation gate, but this class is particularly good at it to help you score that bounty better. Or you might have bounties that say like, if this type of class does this, like kills another type of class, whatever it might be. But each class, whenever you pick up a hero, looking at their class sort of lets you know what you're getting into. There's fighters, which are great at melee combat. There's gunners, which are great at ranged combat. There's rogues, which are great at gathering loot and also just sort of like robbing people and or just being sneaky. They have a lot of like tricks to them. There's specialists, which are support pieces. Like if you're thinking like a MOBA, they're traditional support in terms of healing, helping people upgrade better,
Probably
things
some
like
control.
that. Yeah, a little bit of control. There's scouts, which are highly mobile and often usually have debuffs of some kind to make other people's offensive powers better. And there's guards. And
You said guard already, didn't you?
No, I did not
Oh, you
say guard.
didn't. You didn't. Okay.
And guards are the ones that are really good at protecting and defensively buffing other people in your crew.
Did you say gunner?
Yeah, it's the first one. I said fighter, gunner, scout,
making sure.
rogue, specialist.
I'm
Sorry.
reading. I'm reading the chat.
There's a couple of really good questions.
So
floating
I'll run it
by.
down one more time. Fighter, gunner, rogue, scout, specialist, and guard. Those are the 6 classes you'll see.
Now,
in
the
Riot
thing
Quest.
we didn't talk about with Tony is how easy this game is to learn. And one of the things about learning it is the characters only have a couple of abilities, and those classes give them one. So every scout, every guard, whatever, will have the same ability. So when you set somebody new on the table you've never seen against your opponent, you can say, this guy's a guard. So they know kind of what they're going to do because one of those 3 abilities will be a shared guard ability.
So a couple things that no character has more than 3 abilities, but that's because you also have riot gear in this game that you upgrade your characters with upgrades that you can add to anybody. They're not character specific, and that adds an extra element to it. But 4 characters in play per player, 3 rules per character means that it's very easy to pick up and understand what's going on. The other thing is that everyone I've taught to play the game for playtest, Jordan included, he'll be on in a second for Primecast, I have not had anyone take more than 5 minutes to
it's
fully understand the game.
It's very easy to grasp the basics of what you're supposed to do on your turn.
Tony, fact or lie?
Yeah, Hungerford taught me in about 5 minutes how to play the game, and by my 3rd game, I was teaching other people like a professional how to play the game.
So there are about 3 questions that have scrolled by that I want to make sure we hit.
Sure.
First one, Brenda asks if Riot Quest is going to be a normal release or Kickstarter. Normal release, full retail, all that kind of good stuff. And then going back to Kickstarter for a brief second, a couple people asked if it's still possible to get the art book. Message us on Kickstarter with your email address and what pledge tier you want, and then Josh, me, or Matt will see what we can do.
You said there were 3 questions.
There were 3 questions, but 2 of them were related to that Kickstarter, and I answered them with 1 answer. Boom.
Got it. And real fast, Patrick Wilson, when we've been talking about the classes, they say you build a crew of up to 10 models. There's no army points in this game, so you pick any 10 models you want. There's no army points for the Riot Gear cards you take, so there's a selection of those you get.
Yep.
And there's the 6 classes. They're asking if there's any restriction on the classes you take in the crew. The answer is no.
No.
So that's part of building your crew when you have the models. You may decide to build a crew that is very specifically heavy in one thing. Like, think like a MOBA, right?
Yeah.
Like
Now, the restriction is you can only have one of each character.
one of
So
each,
you can't take
one of each named
you
character.
can't take 10
Heiresses.
the wolf with no names.
Yeah, you can't take 10 heiresses. Each
But-
character is unique like it is in War Machine.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want to go all specialist. Like if you took a team of all support,
Maybe
you'd
you
have a
do want to
weird...
go all specialist.
You could, but it's weird.
It might work.
It doesn't do anything.
It might work.
Everyone's just like, I'm helping, I'm helping, I'm
Well, I
helping,
mean,
and no one's doing anything.
Bamfist does punch people.
Bamfist can kind of punch people.
Yeah.
It's in the name.
Yeah.
So, Riot,
Bamfist.
there's a question from
Tony,
David
give us a
Christopher. Will Riot Quest be released as individual models or in season boxes? There's going to be a starter. There's going to be individual blisters with heroes, and then there's going to be expansions that add new things to the game that typically will have new models and some cool stuff to add, as well as new
Yeah.
maps. The cool thing we're going to do with maps is that when you get the initial map, you look at it, all maps will not be the same size. We're going to make very asymmetrical maps. Like if we want to do something like, say, a pirate ship hex board, a boarding plank, and a pirate ship hex board with dead space in between, we're going to do that. If we want to do multi-layered castles that have teleportation hexes between the floors, we could do that.
Teleporting potatoes?
Yeah,
I want to
We're
telepotato
going to
now.
get really creative with the maps.
Yeah.
We're gonna-
And if you're wondering, some of these names we're dropping, like Bamfist, we had somebody ask that. If you've seen the original video we made, a lot of those characters fly at you. That's where you saw Boomhowler with his machine gun first. Bamfist is the dwarf with a robot arm. Eris was in there.
Yep.
Harlow was in there. There was a couple of other characters inside in that little. At the end of the video, a lot of characters flash past you, and we're going to be showing you guys more of that stuff when we have more models.
I love chat right now. I said teleportators, and chat has gone nuts with it.
Yeah.
So Chase asked the question. I was going to ask to be a smartass, but basically y'all said you can't take more than one named character. But if he's the wolf with no name,
so funny.
then...
No.
Yeah, no, you can
That's
still
his
only take
name.
one.
No chase. Matthew Bunting says, what is the scoring model? So the last thing we want to touch on for Riot Quest before we let you go, Oz.
Sure.
Every faction in War Machine will be represented, though there are no factions in Riot Quest. You
Yeah.
can just take the 10 models you want. But if you're like, what's the Scorn thing going to be? What's the Grimkin thing going to be? What's the Convergence thing going to be? You will see something that is indicative of this post-apocalyptic timeline for every faction. And when we make the War Machine and Hordes rules for them, there will be something for every faction.
James, great example.
Yeah. James.
You can
is
tell immediately what
Is a
faction.
convergence themed model that's also a mercenary and a partisan.
And yeah, partisan convergence. But then there's some models that are going to come out that are very specifically going to be just one faction.
Well, yeah.
For example, Butcher 4, or Orsus the Chained, was his name, is a Khador Doom Reaver solo.
Yeah.
So Wolves of Winter players are getting some really cool stuff, though you won't be able to play him with Butcher 1, 2, or 3, but
Well,
you
of
can
course
play him
not.
with other people. And Butcher 4, without his Warcaster armor, maddened and strapped with a Fel Lola, is a very terrifying prospect for a lot of people. He's just as scary in Riot Quest as he is in War Machine.
Yes, because as Pete Gurr points out, Orsus the lightly buckled. He doesn't look very restrained.
He's got
is
some
the point
chains,
there.
but he's broken
He's coming
most
at
of
you, and it's not gonna be a good day.
And towards the end, there says, why did the timeline diverge? Well, we can't say what happened.
Well, there's a shakeup
Yeah,
coming.
we can't say what happened.
I mean,
Stuff.
it's pretty obvious from the new faction releasing that
Is it?
some things are changing.
Is it?
Some things are exploding.
What if it's all Chuck Dogwood's fault?
No, Chuck Dogwood had nothing to do with it.
Hashtag blame Chuck Dogwood.
Or maybe Chuck had everything to do with it.
No.
So, all right.
Chuck just suffered horrible repercussions.
He's around, though. He's walking around the waste doing something.
Development has
talking
been
to
getting design advice from Hamilton, so there you go.
Oz, before we let you go, man, anything else you want to say about Riot Quest or where it's at or any experiences you've had with the game?
No, it's fun and interesting and different.
Can you pull up the Wolf with No Name one
bring-
more time real
bring the
quick?
Wolf back.
Because that thing is amazing. We had multiple people asking which faction that's going to be for in War Machine, and my answer is it doesn't matter. Look at it.
We'll be letting you know what the Wolf
Yeah.
with No Name. We'll be letting you know more rules about the Wolf with No Name, both in terms of Riot Quest and obviously the War Machine and Hordes rules for him later. We don't want to spoil too much on him just yet. Just showing you another hero entering the arena.
Yeah, and when we get some,
It'll matter
when we
later.
get some more assets put together, like models and maps and things that look like they're final, we'll play a game on the stream.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. But because people have been asking that too, like when are we going to get to see a game? A lot of that is stuff is still in process. Like we could play on our black and white printout glued together hex mat with random colored stickers on it, basically, and
I mean, it's fine for
playtest models that are spray painted one color, so you know which one is on.
But it
your
doesn't
team,
read
and
on
you're
camera
like,
very well.
I'm using this model as this model, and you know, the Wolf with No Name is this Skinwalker that is painted blue because my team is blue. We
Yeah.
could do that, but it wouldn't look as cool.
No, it wouldn't
as
look-
having
No, it'd be really
the
hard to
real
follow
stuff.
on a stream.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Class says, need more Legion? Don't worry, Legion. You're getting something super weird.
Super
And
weird.
Burger Fett says, will Riot Quest models go through CID? Not all of them. We will occasionally do one in CID if it matches, but even then, not.
Yeah.
So Captain Crawtooth, his War Machine and Hordes rules, he's both a privateer and a gatorman.
Right.
So working for both Blind Water and Talion. But the rules for him, we did a lot of internal playtesting, and honestly, doesn't need to be CID'd. When you see when he comes out and what he does, he's very good, very straightforward, and going to find his way into, I would imagine, every Blind Water list that runs more than 2 units of posse, or 2 or more units of
So
posse.
every Brian Water list.
Sure. But we'll probably evaluate all those depending on impact in the game,
Yes.
and complexity of rules and those kind of things, and what CIDs are scheduled when, that kind of stuff.
So some will go into CID, some will not.
And none of us are in production, so we can't give a release date. A bunch of people are asking for that. But I would imagine, take this with a huge grain of salt, that it will probably follow something very similar to what Monsterpocalypse was last year. Probably about the same time frame.
Thank you, Oz.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you, even though I see you every day. So what happens in my day is that Tony shows up in my office, looks at me, says, play test, and then I either ruin his day or not, and then shortly after you come by and like lay down the law. You are the only discipline I have in my life. I appreciate you.
Such scandalous accusations. Okay, I'll see you later.
Later.
Wait.
What? Dude, rip headphone users.
Unless Tony was really fast on the mute button.
Cyrilla says this got awkward. Cyrilla says this is always awkward. It's also really like this every day in the office.
Yeah, no. Primecast is your chance to basically be in the Privateer Press office.
Speaking of always being awkward but delightful, Jordan, come on over here.
Good morning, sir.
How's it going, dude?
Well, you know, just a delicious morning.
Thanks for digging me out of the snow, by the way, when we left the LVO airport.
Yeah, it took literally an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, you're the best.
Yeah. Next time I'll bring a shovel.
Yeah, next time.
Not gonna try and do it with a.
Next time we just won't go. No.
So, everyone, this is Jordan Lamb. This is our studio painter.
Hello.
If you've never caught him on Thursdays, every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, you can get your paint on with Jordan, and Jordan will talk to you about painting while he'll also be painting models. You showed off something cool yesterday, which we'll probably
did.
talk about here in a bit.
I do.
But for starters, we all just got back from LVO.
True story.
I did.
So, let's start with John.
All right.
How was your LVO?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I don't know what the difference was between last year and some of the years past from various different shows and whatnot, but from all accounts, it seems like it's a pretty competitive show because there's a lot of tournaments going on. Tyson runs an amazing event and series of events.
Tyson and Mr. Rutan are very good at what they
Like,
do.
super good. So not having to necessarily manage all that was amazing. However, everyone that came to the booth, which is where I was pretty much the whole time, was in a fantastic attitude. They were having a ton of fun. They actually took the time to come, hang out. You know, it's always nice when people come by this shop to buy stuff, but it's even better when they come by to actually hang out and talk and chat, especially when they're in a good mood and enjoying playing their games. So that was my favorite part.
Cool. Jordan, how was your LVO, man?
It was good. It was good.
We hung out a lot.
We hung out a lot.
Yeah. You never came and played craps with me, by the way.
You know what? I never got invited.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, you know what? You're not going to lay that one on me. I'm going to
true.
lay that one back on you.
Hungerford never
we're gonna
told anyone
double
to
it.
come play craps with him. He just came by and said how much he was winning at craps.
Yeah,
and
that's
how
all
good
he
he was
said. He
at
said-
life.
It's a
Craps
dice
has
game.
been good to me this weekend.
It's a dice game.
Yeah, which is exactly why I should never play it.
If a tabletop developer doesn't know how to figure out the math for a dice game, Hamilton nailed it.
But yeah, how was your LVO?
LVO was great. I had a really good time. It's my first time in Vegas, first time to LVO. So it's kind of nice to experience everything. Nice to see everybody who I got to hang out with there. Yeah, it was really cool. It got me kind of reinvigorated for War Machine.
This is your first.
Really exciting.
Was this your first, like, non-lock and load, non-Gen Con? I don't remember. Have you been to other ones? Or?
So I've been to cons as attendees before.
Yeah, I mean for privateer.
But for privateer, this is my first non-lock and load, non-Gen Con.
Because those are both lock and loads, obviously our show backyard, right? Tons
Right.
of just War Machine and Hordes players and privateer fans. And Gen Con is like this mega show, right? It's like the Disney World of cons.
Correct.
And LVO being your first like real variety show, but very, it's a miniature show. It's very,
Very much so.
very specific on a certain genre, but it has a lot of offerings in that genre. So how did you enjoy that as, obviously a miniature gamer and a fan of the hobby?
I mean, being both a player of the game for a very long time, it was nice to see a lot of people playing. It's also nice to see a lot of painted armies. Like, obviously, I'm a painter. I love seeing painted armies on the table. And I got to see a ton of that. A lot of people had some really cool armies that they were playing with. So that's what was exciting for me.
Saw a Storm Raptor that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, there was the
couple Storm
the Grimkin army that won.
Chris Dancox has been winning hardcores for a long time with his Trolls army,
So sweet.
and he just finished that Grimkin army.
Yeah.
What about, was there a model in particular in his army that caught your eye?
I don't think it was necessarily the models themselves that like drew me to it. It was the basing, which was really, really interesting.
Yeah, explain to everybody.
So he was playing the Wanderer that weekend, as well as some other stuff. But like the tokens that you use to mark his like markers, or I forget what
The
they're called.
road tokens.
The road
Yeah.
tokens. They were all kind of like built up and kind of bent and curved into this just kind of landscape. It was really, really cool to see. And it was very intricate and very interesting. And the models obviously were beautifully painted. So it was cool. I liked it a lot.
Sweet.
But yeah, I got to paint, got to chat with a lot of people about painting stuff. Got to see some really cool War Machine models that were put up for the painting event. And one in particular, there was a Scar Bust there. I never got to chat with the person who put it up there.
I didn't
but
either because all I was able to find out is their first name was Stephanie. But
It was very good.
amazing.
It
was very
did well.
And
So
you're coming to Adepticon, right?
I am going to Adepticon.
And you'll be painting there as well?
Yes.
Sweet. And obviously there's also another huge hobby competition at Adepticon that always has these great results that we see posted all over
Yep.
the internet. So that'd be really, really exciting
Yeah.
to see.
I mean, Adepticon is very much a hobby con. Like
Just like LVO, right?
Yeah, kind of like
Almost
LVO.
even more so, yeah.
It is the biggest like painting convention out of all of the ones that I'm familiar with in the U.S. For be that being Adepticon. Like obviously they have the big painting competition there every year. There's tons of different instances where people do like painting classes and things like that. In addition to all the tournaments and stuff that are going on.
And so since we so smoothly transitioned, Adepticon will be happening March 27th through the 31st in beautiful Schaumburg, Illinois. But before we go too much deeper into that, Harvard, what was your favorite part of LVO?
The people. I spent most of my time either playing. I got a couple games in the Iron Arena, but most of the time, what would you guys call it? Holding court.
That's what I call
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So-
Yes.
Especially on Friday.
At the round table.
yeah,
I
it was,
would.
it was delightful.
I just sat down and people would come up and we started having these really great conversations about the game, about different art, everything from like, hey, check out my list. What do you think about it? To here's some feedback and thoughts, or I really like what happened with the CID, or I didn't like what happened with the CID, or here are some experiences I've had. And I basically talked shop with people. I was able to give them some insight on some design decisions, tried to be transparent with people on sort of like why certain things were the way they were, why we decided what we did. And I felt like every conversation I had with everyone was either just fun or productive. And I really like productive conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where like, at the end of it, I feel that the person's question has actually been answered, not like I just said a bunch of like, woo, and then they went their way. Or like we talked shop about lists a lot, and just like people were like, oh, that's a cool thing, I'm gonna try that. Or you talked me out of doing that. So, I mean, I grew up in this community. I've been doing this for 13 years now, and before I worked for the company, one of my favorite things to do at the shop, back when I was press ganging, was to talk to people about the game, talk to them about their list. We'd always play a game and then go outside and just chat about it, and I basically got to do that at LVO the whole time. And then help run the caster draft and a few other little things like that.
It was just extra entertaining because all day on Friday, you were literally at a round table. Just with all of them sitting around asking these different questions and having these conversations. So anytime I walk by, either to talk to Jason, who's a great dude, runs LVO for Frontline, or go do this task or another, you were there the whole day.
It was a lot of good conversations and a really good attitude for everybody. So
Yeah, I mean that is one of the nice things about conventions, right? Like there's so many wonderful people around the world that you meet at these conventions, and you don't typically get to see them in your local area, or at least in our local area, very often. So it's really nice to go to these conventions and hang out with these people and get to chat and grab dinner or what have you.
yeah, I mean,
So it's
LVO
really sweet.
is one of the shows I would go to if I wasn't an employee of Privateer Press. I would go as an
Absolutely.
attendee.
Oh
to go
yeah,
hang out, just go hang out with
absolutely,
people.
yeah.
And another show, like one of the top ones on my list, also like it's LVO and Adepticon. I love those shows so much. And Adepticon, I'm really excited to go. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. John's going to be there.
And we'll have Oz and Jeff, and my brain just stopped on Danny.
My brain just stopped on Danny.
Yes.
It was just like, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Danny.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Pretty much exactly.
Now, obviously, we have our big show,
Yes.
Lock and Load. And
Yes.
for anybody who's missed the dates on it, June 21st through 23rd.
Yes. So, Shinsenshi asks, is that date 100% official? Yes, it is.
Yep.
And you will have more details on events and how to get your tickets and so forth very soon.
Yep. Now,
Very soon.
the idea, the plan, right? But obviously things do change sometimes. Is that next week, hopefully on Jordan's stream, but maybe it'll be its own separate announcement. We'll let you all know.
Yep.
We're going to have some major news about Lock and Load, including registration and events and
All
stuff
that
like
kind
that.
of good stuff.
So all that information you've been asking for is coming up next week. We are still dealing with snowpocalypse, and the weather forecast for next week is a lot of snow and a lot of freezing rain. So there is a chance everything gets delayed again. So sorry if that's the case, but we're going to try and have you more info next week.
And I got asked about her a lot at LVO. She wasn't quite ready, but unless something in production changes, I will in fact have Source Zero for you at Adepticon. And because she is the show exclusive for that show instead of just being a pre-release, that means if you unfortunately can't come join us at Adepticon for all the fun, she will be available on the store during that time as well.
Sweet.
And then shows after that, she'll just be a regular pre-release.
Speaking of you painting at shows and painting on the stream, what are you painting right now?
What am I painting right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can show people.
Yes, please.
So
Because you showed this yesterday, right?
I did show this on stream yesterday, but maybe y'all know what this is. This is the Well of Ouroboros. Put it in the middle of the.
Can I hold
the
it?
way. Go
So,
don't break
here
it.
comes Tony.
I don't
Tony's
wanna
like
paint
getting
it.
ready to do some kind of thing.
Tony, what are you doing here?
Tony's zooming in.
We need Hamilton for scale. I mean, just use my fist for scale, right? Like, this thing is big.
There we go.
Oh,
Oh, look,
wow, the detail really pops on that.
the detail on my face really pops.
nice and.
Thanks for that,
beautiful.
Tony. I wasn't ready.
But yeah, this is it's a work in progress. Obviously, it's not done, but
How does this thing stay up?
it's floating.
I
Magic.
know, but like, no, not like setting wise, like the miniature.
Magic. Like actually.
Did you? Okay, so real talk. Did you have to pin this, or did it just go together like normal?
This model actually goes together beautifully.
Really?
Yeah, I did not even gap fill it.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
I mean,
awesome.
there are some
Like-
spots that I might go in and like add a little something to like, but there's it's nuts.
Huh.
Like, can you tell me which parts are separate?
Okay, so I imagine that this rock, the three floating rocks to the side are separate pieces.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously.
And then I would imagine,
they
that
would
this is a solid. No, that can't be a solid piece. I don't understand how this works.
So each of the rocks,
And it angers me.
each of the rocks is separate. The little.
They attach where the vines.
So there's 2 pieces for each floating rock.
Okay, so
there's the rock itself,
And
and
then-
then there's the attachment that attaches it to the core
Okay.
well itself.
I assume the rocks themselves are probably resin, and then are the vine attachments?
The
just metal?
vines are metal. Everything else is resin.
Okay.
So there's only 3 metal pieces. The rest of it is all a resin.
Now the big body here though, and then like the waterfall going down to this. What is separate here?
So there's three separate pieces.
Okay.
There's the big chunk at the top.
So up here.
Yep.
Okay.
There's this waterfall face right here is actually a separate piece.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's the bottom chunk.
So then this little cave underneath.
Yep. This is a separate piece.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I think Tony's
But yeah,
getting ready to
it's
zoom in again.
it's very very well designed, and it goes together.
So
like a
I
dream.
want people to see that internal waterfall that's going on in there, in case they didn't
Yeah.
get a chance.
So we want to hold it and kind of twist it a little bit.
Right
Everyone
in
can
there.
see there's like a little cave in there that the water's going through. So you're saying that each of these is 2 pieces. Then there's the large piece up here, the cave,
the
and
chum
then,
on the other side.
then
the waterfall
The
on that
waterfall on the back end here.
Yeah.
And then obviously this base that it fits in.
Correct.
Wow. So no pinning, no gap filling. It just went together.
Yep. Yep. Oh, and obviously the base is a separate piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole bit just like sits right in the center of that
I love it.
circular ring.
That's
I
really-
think so. Like I saw the concept art, and I'm like, that's going to be a really dope model. I'm not sure how they're going to chop it up, but seeing that like finally like in person, like the actual model is pretty amazing.
Yeah. The engineering on that is really really cool.
It's been a blast to paint. It's a nice challenge. Like we don't have a lot of water, like flowing water in any of our models at all. So it's kind of a cool experience to mess around with that for the first time.
It being all in resin and metal is what blows my mind. If you told me this was hard plastic, I could very easily be like, oh, I got it, right?
Right.
But this is resin and metal, which gives it that extra crisp detail, but at the same time, like having to engineer it the way we did so that it's like floating and doing all this stuff.
Well, I'm a lot less worried about transporting it now.
Oh, it's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this entire
It's just going to sit right
well,
in there.
it sits entirely within the large base, right? So
Yeah.
there's no overhang like you would have with like a mammoth
if there is
or something
there's,
like that, right?
millimeters. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not much at
yeah.
all.
So it's just a matter of height, and the thing's not that tall.
Will you be
So-
done with this by Adepticon, or will you be painting this at Adepticon?
Oh no, this will be done by Adepticon. Cool. This will be done sometime this week. You kidding me?
Well, I think that's everything we wanted to cover for the cons. Do you want to stay here for the final close out the outro, or do you
Yeah,
want
sure.
to you want to just hang out?
No, I'm here.
JR used to hang out all the time for the
Yep.
outros.
Yep.
John or Tony. Thank you for doing Hamilton soft, by the way, because like
Yeah. Like not abusing
No,
him like Oz.
only soft for Hamilton.
Yep.
Only soft.
So everybody, just as a reminder, thanks for joining us. First off, thanks for being here the whole time and all your questions. We got to a bunch of them. I see a lot of people asking when the well is available for purchase. I don't know, unfortunately. If I had that information, I would tell you, but I don't have that.
That date is being finalized. Yeah.
Sorry again that we couldn't have Doug on to talk about Infernals, but Doug, I know you're at home right now with the Snowpocalypse and everything. I hope you are doing well, and I
safe.
hope to see you soon back at
Yes.
work. And make sure you join us every week. Wednesday for Dev Chat, Thursday for Get Your Paint On with Jordan.
And make sure to especially be there this next Thursday for Get Your Paint On.
Yes, where we're going to be potentially having some more lock and load information regarding registration and events if another
goes-
Snowpocalypse doesn't destroy the world.
If all goes according to plan, I will have all kinds of great things to share with you as I pester Jordan while he paints.
Yep.
Yes,
So-
I will do everything in my power to make sure that I can get out of my house and drive to work.
I hope so. I'll come shovel you out if I have to, since you have.
I mean, that's
you hook
fair.
me up
I mean,
like a
that's-
bro.
that's-
Dude, your
recip-
house is
reciprocal
dangerous enough
shoveling.
as it is.
Dude, my house is a nightmare. Like
Yeah, I mean, you saw my house. It's not exactly much of an improvement.
it's awful. So
yeah.
join us next month. We'll be talking about Mount Terra, Armadax, Gareth, the Eye of Vengeance, and so much more. And hopefully we'll have Doug back. I'm sure we'll have you back.
I'll be around.
There's pictures of Armadax up, like the studio painted one, and of course some people got him at LVO, but that dude is so happy.
Armadax?
Like Armadax, like if you look at him at just the right angle, he just looks like he is so happy to be himself. And why wouldn't you be? He looks amazing.
Just happy to be alive.
He's just so happy
It's
to
a-
be
it's a beautiful
a
dinosaur.
horrible, overscaled
beautiful
monster
dinosaur.
that's damn near impossible to kill.
So thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you next time. Till then, bye. Be safe.
Audio.
Lunchtime.
That's not solid at all.